All right, so 1-3, using formulas. So we've got a rectangle. And then my question to you is this. Find the perimeter and area. It's kind of assumed that you know the perimeter and area formula for a rectangle already. So what is the perimeter formula for a rectangle?
Length times width times height.
That's your volume. So not length times width times height.
2L plus 2W.
2L plus 2W is 1. You could also use 2 times in parentheses L plus W, right? So there's one of your formulas. You could also just add up the 4 sides, right? But I want you using the formula. So for today, use your formula, plug in what you know, and then solve. So we've got P is equal to 2, and then use your units of measure. Instead of length, we're going to put in 6 meters. If you put in your units of measure, you don't have to worry about, is my answer to the first power or is it to the second power? If you put those units of measure in, your algebra will tell you. My width is 3 meters. And so I end up with 12 meters plus 6 meters, which is what? 18 meters, right? So there's your perimeter. What's our area formula? Length times width. And so plug into that what you know and let your algebra do the rest. So my length is my 6 meters. My width is my 3 meters. What's meters times meters? So you don't have to remember it. So we have area is equal to 18 meters squared. So you can have some various problems where you're doing that. Some of them might have decimals in it, so you might have to do some long multiplication. That's fine, you can deal with that. If there's a fraction in it, or a mixed number specifically, change it into an improper fraction and then do the work. Do not change it to a decimal. You can only have a decimal answer if there's a decimal in the original problem. If there's a fraction in the original problem, you can only have a fraction or an integer for an answer. You can't have a decimal. So keep that in mind. All right, then the other types of problems you're going to have will look like this. This time I'm just going to give you some pieces and you have to find what's missing. So if I said that the length was equal to 6, and let's say that it's inches, and the area was equal to 36 inches squared, your job is to find the width. Now I know that you can do this in your head, and I chose one for your notes that you could do in your head, so I heard somebody say it already. What is it? 6, but we're going to prove it algebraically, because what if you get one that you can't do in your head? I want you to understand how you're supposed to approach it. What is the key thing up here that I gave you? The area. Area is key. The minute I give you area, your brain should be thinking area formula. So again, my area formula for a rectangle is length times width. So you're going to plug into that area formula the pieces that you know and use your algebra to solve. So I know that my area is 36, and put in your units of measure, inches squared, is equal to, my length is 6 inches times W. How are you going to solve that equation for W? Yep, divide both sides by 6 inches. And so the 6 and the inches over here cancel. 36 divided by 6 is 6. Inches, subtract from inches squared, you subtract one of those, so we do end up with 6 inches for our width. If you're really good with your units of measure, you can ignore the units of measure until the very end. It's your choice. All right, what if I gave you this instead? Perimeter is equal to 13 meters. Width is equal to 2.5 meters. find length. What are you going to start with? This one's not so easy to do in your head. You could, but let's not. Yep. I would start with your perimeter formula, the one that we used above. So twice your length plus twice your width. Plug in what you know. I've got 13 meters is equal to 2L plus 2 times 2.5 meters. So I can't do anything with the 13 meters or the 2L, but what's 2 times 2.5? 5. So we end up with plus 5 meters, then solve. Subtract 5 meters. You end up with 8 meters is equal to 2L, and then divide by 2. And so you get L is equal to 4 meters. If having the units of measure in there bother you because you have an M and an L, leave them out. But make sure you put the units of measure in at the end. And the key one on this one was the fact that we had perimeter. That's why I used the perimeter formula. You okay with that? No questions? Okay. Purely using your algebra. All right, so can I flip it? Not yet? We're going to do only one last type of problem. And this last problem is a very popular Ames type question. And we're going to find maximum area. So you ready? All right, last example 3. So we're going to do it the long way at first, and then I'll teach you the shortcut. So you are to find, and write all this down, find the maximum area for the given perimeter of a rectangle. We're going to do 3 different problems. One the long way, one the short way, and one that's more difficult because it deals with fractions or decimals. Ready? All right, so the given rectangle's perimeter is 40 centimeters. I have to find the maximum area. In order to find area, what do I have to know? Length times width or base times height, right? Well, given the perimeter, how am I going to find the length and the width? We could guess and check, right? Think about your formula. So we came up with 2 different formulas earlier. We came up with the perimeter is twice the length plus twice the width, right? What about this formula? Twice the length plus the width. All I need to know is what the length and the width equal together. And then I can come up with sums that add up to that. Right now I know that my perimeter is 40. So my perimeter is 40 equals 2 times the length plus the width. I want to get the length plus the width by itself. How do you solve? Yeah, divide this whole thing by 2 and divide this by 2. Because I have 2 lengths and 2 widths, so it makes sense that I would take that 40 and divide it by 2. So really what I have is 20 is equal to the sum of my length and my width. So if I can come up with sums of 2 numbers that give me 20, then couldn't I multiply those 2 numbers to give me my area? In other words, if 20 centimeters is equal to my length plus my width. Okay? Then can't I, so for instance, wouldn't 1 plus 19 give me 20? And then for my area, if I took the length times the width, 1 times 19, in this case 19, wouldn't that give me the area of that length and that width? So I could have a rectangle that has a perimeter of 40, that's 1 by 19, and it gives me an area of 19. Let's come up with another sum. I could have 2 and what? 18. 2 plus 18 gives me 20. This is my length and my width. What's 2 times 18? So 36 is a bigger area than 19, right? So far I have a bigger area. Let's keep going and see what's going to give me my biggest area altogether. So I could have 3 and what? 17. What's 3 times 17? 51. Bigger still. 4 and what? 16, which gives me
76.
I got 3 different answers. How about 64? 5 and what? 15, what is that? 75. 6 and 14. So far we keep getting bigger and bigger. 6 and 14. 84. 7 and 7 and what? 13 gives me what? 91. And then 8, 12 gives me what? Now it's starting to slow down, isn't it? 9 and what? That should be easy. 99. And then 10 and 10 gives us 100. What happens if I do 11 here? I'm going to get 9, and don't I have 11 and 9 here? So once these reach the same number, I can stop. What turned out to be my maximum area? Which is a 10 by 10. Oh, what kind of figure is that? A square. Is a square a rectangle? Yes, it is. It's a special rectangle. It's just like an equilateral triangle. Isn't an equilateral triangle a special triangle? So a square is a special quadrilateral. And it is still a rectangle. So even though it says find the maximum area for the given perimeter of a rectangle, this is still a rectangle. And so write yourself a big note. A square is always the maximum area. So I could have done this with you again, and then you would have realized, oh, it's the same thing times the same thing again, but I don't want to waste your time. Will you believe me that a square is always the maximum area? Okay, because it is. All right, so what's the shortcut? So let's see. Because we don't want to do this the whole time, right? Here's your shortcut. Number 1, we started with 40, right? That's what we started with. How can we go from 40 to the 10? Divide by why 4? How many sides are there to a square? And aren't they all equal? Okay, so we will be dividing by 4 equal sides. That's why we're dividing by 4. And so we get 10 centimeters. Then step 2 is to find the area of that square, which is length times width, and in our case is 10 centimeters times 10 centimeters. So our maximum area, so I'm going to put a little submax down there, is 100 centimeters squared. That's a lot less work than what we just did. Wouldn't you agree? So there's only 2 steps to it. Divide by 4, and it's always divide by 4 because a square always has 4 equal sides. And then take that answer and multiply it to itself, square it, essentially. So let me give you another one. Can I flip this? Okay. So this next one is 96 inches for the perimeter. Use the shortcut and find the maximum area. You'll have to do some multiplication unless you know this in your head, which most of you don't. Pardon?
That's the perimeter.
That's the perimeter. Yes. Oh wait, I don't want the answer yet. Hold on to that answer. When you get an answer, I want you to share it with those around you, and if your answers are different, figure out who's right. So talk to somebody. Talk, talk, talk. Let's go. Okay, so is there some disagreement going on around here? What do you think the answer is?
576.
That is the answer. All right, let's see why. So step one, what do you do?
Divide.
So we take 96 and we divide it by 4 sides. What did you get when you divided it?
24.
24 inches is correct. And then the second step, you're going to take for your area, your maximum area, 24 inches times 24 inches. So that was a big multiplication, right? What'd you get when you multiplied that out? 576 inches squared is what you should have gotten when you multiplied it out. Does anybody need me to multiply that out for you? Okay. All right, last one I'm going to give you. What if I give you something that's not evenly divisible by 4? So for instance, let's choose something that's somewhat smaller. We could do 17. So 17 feet is equal to your perimeter. So that's not divisible by 4, correct? But we can still do it. So we're going to take 17 feet. We are going to divide it by 4 sides. So you're going to have to probably do the division off here to the side because you want the exact decimal. So I'm going to add a decimal point and 2 zeros and bring a decimal up top. And I've got a 4 out in front. So at most, how many times is 4 going to 17? 4 times. 4 times 4 is 16. Subtract, I get 1. So bring down the next 0. 4 goes into 10 at most, how many times? 2 times. 2 times 4 is 8. So subtract 8, I get 2. Bring down the next 0. 4 goes into 20, how many times? 5. 4 times 5 is 20, and now I have no remainder, so I can stop. You have to keep going until you have no remainder. So I end up with this ugly decimal, 4.25 feet. Now here's the deal. You could take, for the second step, you could take 4.25 feet times 4.25 feet to get your maximum area. You could do that, right? Or you could take 4 1/4 times 4 1/4 and change those into improper fractions and multiply that way if you don't want to deal with the decimals. What would you prefer? Work with the fraction or the decimal?
Decimal.
See, I hear both. So work with your decimal or work with your fraction, and let's see what you get. I don't care which answer if you give me a fraction or a decimal for this particular type of problem. So here's the, oh, you didn't see all that. So here's the problem with using your fractions on this one. Once you get 289/16, well, then you have to turn that probably into a mixed number for it to make sense. This is the actual decimal equivalency. Did I hear somebody say they got 18?
Yeah.
Did I do it wrong?
Yeah.
No, I didn't. I thought it was 25. Where did I miss? 5, 2, 6. That's a 17. Oh, did I forget that? 4 times 4. 4 times 2 is 8. Seriously? And I just did this on videotape. I love it. 20. 4 times 2 is 8. Oh, 9, 10. Oh, that's why. You're right. Bummer. So then that's an 8. See, I'm human. I just want to see if you're awake. How about that? 18.0625? And then if you divided that out, you should hopefully get 18, right? All right, so that's it.